Hi everybody, welcome to my IL-2 Sturmovik Cliffs of Dover Blitz edition worth buying cheap review. So the headline, and this might be a bit controversial to some, is that I think that Cliffs of Dover is only worth buying cheap if you're determined to find the absolute cheapest way on PC to fly the Spitfire and Hurricane over the south coast of the UK, the Channel and the northern France during the Battle of Britain. I kind of think, especially if you're new to this sort of thing, that you're probably better off waiting for Battle of Stalingrad, the Great Battles version of Il-Sturmovik, to go on sale, where it can be had for only a few pounds more than Cliffs of Dover. And when I'm talking about buying cheap, what I'm talking about here is buying Cliffs of Dover off a key site like CD Keys, where you can get it for less than a fiver, or when it goes on sale. Normally when it goes on sale, it goes on sale with the Desert Wings DLC as well. So when Battle of Stalingrad goes on sale, it's normally about £8, because it's probably about $10. So that's the kind of price I think is an amazing entry into this series of games. But you just need to bear in mind as well that all of the IL-2 games really need you to invest in a flight stick, so like a joystick and maybe a HOTAS system where you've got a throttle as well. They're not gamepad friendly at all. In fact, they're not really flight stick friendly to a newbie anyway. You really need to know what you're doing when you're going into doing it, but it's not rocket science, it's aircraft science. You can go in and it is doable. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So let's go into a little bit more detail, because Cliffs of Dover Blitz and the Desert DLC, they are very, very interesting World War II combat flight simulators. And if we put the kind of newer, in inverted commas, but definitely a little bit more user-friendly Battle of Stalingrad Great Battles IL-2 games to one side, I think Cliffs of Dover is definitely worth consideration. And both parts of the game, the Cliffs of Dover part and the Desert DLC part, will give you some amazing experiences. And in fact, there's plenty of people out there who actually prefer the combat in Cliffs of Dover because of the AI that's in the game. In fact, what I should probably talk about now, before we go any further, is why is there these different games? Why is there IL-2 Great Battles, which is the Battle of Stalingrad, the Battle of Moscow, the Battle of Normandy, the Battle of, and I'm going to get these names wrong, there's the Bergen Blitz, is it, or something like that, the Western Europe one. There's the Battles games, and there's also the Cliffs of Dover game and the Desert DLC. Now, originally Blitz came out in 2011. Cliffs of Dover came out in 2011, but it wasn't very good, and basically the developer kind of abandoned it and said, look, there's no point us trying to get this to work properly. We want to move on, and we want to make the Great Battles series of Sturmovik games, which they did. But a load of modders got together and worked on the Blitz edition, and then worked with the official Sturmovik publishers and devs, and got their permission to release a new working version of Cliffs of Dover. So, although the menu system and the UI are a little bit rough, very rough around the edges, it looks like a game from about 2006. What you've got with Il-Sturmovik now is you've got kind of two parallel tracks of development of two sides of the same coin, but they're working on different engines, so they offer different things. So you're going to have the Cliffs of Dover Blitz stuff, and then you're going to have the Great Battles games. The Great Battle games, there's more content in them, they're bigger, but that's because you've got the whole Il-Sturmovik studio working on them, where the Cliffs of Dover is a smaller group of modders. However, the Cliffs of Dover guys and girls, they are actually working on I can't remember the name of the DLC, but they're working on DLC that will include B-17 bombers. I think it's B-17s, the ones that are in the Masters of the Sky or Masters of the Air TV series on Apple TV, all about the 8th Army, the American 8th Army, bombing Germany. And the beauty of that is you will then have 4-engine bombers, which I don't think is in any other of the Il-Sturmovik titles apart from Sturmovik 1946, which is the kind of the original game that's really pretty old now that we need to use mods with. So that's kind of thing to kind of bear in mind. Although sometimes we think of Cliffs of Dover as, oh, that's the old one, that's the generation, I guess it would be generation 2 at Sturmovik, rather than the third generation of the Great Battles. They are still in development, and what will probably happen is that changes to the Cliffs of Dover Blitz engine will be that come with new DLC will be kind of introduced in the same way that with Battle of Stalingrad. What happens is when they introduce a new battle, the changes that they make to the engine get rolled back into the earlier games as well, so the whole thing improves. So once you get past all that and you do some basic flight training and you start the single player campaign, Cliffs of Dover really starts to shine. Once you're 1,000 feet up as well, the terrain looks fantastic. It looks as good as Microsoft Flight Simulator. Basically, it doesn't when you download stuff. It's got nowhere near the detail. But when you're up high, the green and pleasant fields of southern England look amazing. And probably the biggest challenge is the HUD is really old school. You know, the way that the writing comes up on it, and there's not many quality of life things to help. You know, you've got to look at the cockpit to see what your altitude is, your rate of climb, and all that sort of stuff. But once you get into combat, that's where it really starts to shine and really looks fantastic. You know, there's something about being in a hurricane, you know, on the south coast of England. You know, and you've got the green fields of England to one side, maybe it's Hampshire, West Sussex, East Sussex, something like that. And then on the other side you've got the Channel, maybe you've got the Isle of Wight in the distance or something like that. And you're in your hurricane and you're flipping upside down, trying to chase down an ME-109 or an ME-110. You know, maybe, you know, they've got smoke trailing from an engine, or maybe they've gone down low and they're trying to escape across the Channel and you're coming down behind them. It's just like being in the Battle of Britain film that you watched when you were a kid, like that. It really is fantastic. You've got to bear in mind, though, that these games, they are flight simulators, combat flight simulators. So if, like me, you like turning on all the assists, you can. So basically you can just jump in the cockpit, push the throttle forward, take off, and you know, and get on with it. You don't have to do all the engine management stuff. Often there will be quite a delay for you to get to the mission. You know, you'll take off, you'll form up with the other Hurricanes or the other Spitfires, and you'll go towards the assembly point, and then you'll run into the enemies. There'll be a dogfight or whatever you've got to do, and then you come back and you're meant to land. However, there are keys to speed up time as well, so you can do that, and there's also autopilot that you can turn on so that the plane will land for you. So, you know, I think that's pretty cool, and I've definitely enjoyed doing that. So you also can't beat CloD or Cliffs of Dover in terms of value for money, I think, because with the base game, and also if you get the desert expansion as well, you get all these games, you get all these planes, you get like the Spitfire, the Hurricane, the Beaufighter, BF-109s, the BF-110, the Stuka, the Junkers 88, the 111 bomber, the Blenheim, is that bomber I think? You get the Fiat G50, and there's even more of that. So when you compare the price of getting Cliffs of Dover with, say, buying aeroplanes in Microsoft Flight Simulator or DCS, this is a way cheaper way of doing it. It really is. And I've got to say, I really enjoy my time with Cliffs of Dover. You know, I'm nowhere near finishing it. You know, I've only scratched the surface of the single player campaign. I'm really just learning about this sort of combat flight simulator. But I think that if you haven't got it already, and you know you've enjoyed Microsoft Flight Simulator, for example, but want to go down the World War II route without breaking the bank, I think probably start off with Battle of Stalingrad, because it's a little bit more user friendly. And then when Cliffs of Dover goes on sale, or you get it from a key site, pick it up then and then give it a go. Just bear in mind that it is based on an older game, and so it can be a little bit clunky setting up and actually getting into it. But I think a really important thing to remember is what I said earlier as well, is the fact that this series of games, the Cliffs of Dover version of Sturmovik, is still in development. You know, and what's going to be really interesting is when they bring out the 4-engine bomber DLC and add that in. That will be something that at the moment anyway, Sturmovik Great Battles doesn't have. You know, the biggest bombers have got 2 engines like the Heinkel 111. But if all of a sudden You know, Cliffs of Dover has the B-17, that's the not super flying fortress, and that means, wait a minute, that means a Lancaster isn't that far away either. You know, all of a sudden things start to get very interesting indeed, and that investment you've made in Cliffs of Dover Blitz and getting used to the program and setting up the controls and all that sort of stuff, you know, could really be something very special indeed. Anyway, there we go. So Sturmovik 2, or IL-2 Sturmovik, Cliffs of Dover Blitz edition, and the Desert Wings DLC, definitely worth buying cheap, but maybe think about getting the Battle of Stalingrad version first, in the Great Battles version of IL-2 Sturmovik, and I'm sure you're going to have a fantastic time. Anyway, that's enough from me. What do you think though? Put your questions and comments down below, and of course I'll see you again soon.